Hi guys, today's topic is autism. We all know that autism affects the brain development of many of Americans each year, and many thousands of Americans each year, and we all know that numbers on the rise as the definition of autism keeps changing on a daily basis. It seems like it was 1 in 150, and I'm sure as the more I'm talking here, it'll jump to even 1 in 110, 20, somewhere around there. But we all know that autistic students have trouble functioning in certain areas. They have intellectual disabilities, they have trouble handling their motor neurons, and they can even have sleep disorders or physical handicaps. But what we don't know is how rewarding it can actually be to have an autistic student in your classroom. My student teaching year, I was graced with Matthew. Matthew was a highly functioning autistic student whose parents had him homeschooled until then. And he was absolutely amazing. He was actually one of my best students. And for those of you who have not had an autistic student, he's actually, it's a blessing in disguise. It really is. He was one of my best students. Not only was he cautious about the assignment, he would come up and ask questions. He would ask extra questions. He would stay a little bit later. He was absolutely awesome. We even got him involved outside of the classroom in FFA meetings. He was participated in our 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And he also had a little garden plot at home, which he grew plants and vegetables with his parents. The three primary areas where we needed to focus on Matthew were his social, his language, and his behavior. Obviously, being homeschooled, he didn't have the social and the behavior needed for a classroom setting. So we sat Matthew next to one of the students who was doing fairly well in the class, and they got along really well, and she was able to tell him what was wrong and what was right, and then if he had any questions, he knew to come up and ask me right away. His behavior was a little shaky at first, obviously, from going from a classroom of 1 to a classroom of 35 was a little bit of a challenge for him at first, but he was able to actually go right in nicely, because the first unit we covered when he came into the classroom was astronomy, and he loved drawing and he loved plants, so it actually worked out very, very well. The language barrier with Matthew was pretty non-existent. Obviously, he had a few language errors and gaffes here and there, but nothing too extraordinary. His parents did an absolute wonderful job with him at home. The only thing I would say is multiple checks. These students can get lost fairly quickly, and it's no fault of their own, obviously, but multiple checks for understanding, repetition, as many of you guys have said in your videos, is also great. But they are very, very friendly and more than willing to learn or ask whatever you ask of them, and vice versa. Whatever they have trouble with, they'll be more than willing to come up to you. In my experience, I have not had a single problem. I didn't have a single problem with Matthew the whole year. His mom wrote me a letter of recommendation for my first job I applied for. So it can be very beneficial, and it's actually a blessing, not a curse, as some people may think. And I really enjoyed having Matthew in my class. Just keep it fresh and easy. I know we all learn about a variety of teaching techniques and visual learners and auditory learners and kinesthetic learners. I think with those students in the classroom, if you keep all three in a very circular fashion, round fashion, kind of like the 3-ring model, and you use them all at the same time, and you use them all at different times. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Either way, as long as you're using all three, the student's going to thrive, and not only just your autistic student, your other students in your classroom will thrive as well. So I don't really think it can be a bad thing at all to have an autistic student or two in your class. You just need to make sure that you stay in contact with them, and also you stay in contact with their parent or guardian. That I feel is really key, and let them know they're lacking in an area, if they need help with something else, or if any way you can help them, because Matthew's parents were very, very good at emailing, and I was very good at responding back and letting them know if they need anything, they could come contact me ASAP, and vice versa. So if we can keep that going, it would be very beneficial, and those are a few tips and tricks to having an autistic student in your class, and I really think it is a blessing and not a curse. So I hope you guys all get to experience it one day, and it'll be a really eye-opening experience if you haven't got to experience it yet. Thanks, guys. See you next week.